So welcome again to number two of four, a series of four teachings to introduce us or to immerse us even further to Mussar. I'm not going to say any more than that, except in Luzzato's, in the book, the Path of the Righteous, Mesilat Yesharim, which is one of the Bibles of Mussar, the author says, I'm not going to teach you anything that you don't already know. And I think that's a good thing to keep in mind that we are remembering things that the midrash that we're in utero, an angel comes along and taps us right there, and that's why we forget everything. We learn everything from the beginning of time to the end of time, but the angel gives us a little slap right there, and that's why each of us has a fulcrum. I remembered what it's called. Excellent. So without further ado, and just as a heads up, Sandy and Elana, I'm going to spotlight you for people to, you'll take up the screen, but you can change over to gallery view. Everybody can change over to gallery view if you want to see everybody else. I just changed my mind. Never mind. If you want them spotlit, you spotlight them yourself. Okay? And because I'm
Like
just
we
worried
know how to
about,
do that, right? Okay.
that's exactly what I was thinking. That
Ian deal.
we're an older group here. Some of us don't know how to the full technical possibilities.
Hey, I
So
muted my background. That was
so we welcome our sister MOShniks, Reb Sandy Cohen and Elana Nadiva. Please welcome them.
okay. Welcome, everybody. We are so glad to have you here. Reb Sarah and I had a wonderful time creating a presentation, a teaching this evening about humility. Anava, I believe is what it is in Hebrew. So that's what we're going to explore together. Now this little part is we're going to introduce ourselves, who we are, very briefly, and how we got to Mussar. So I'm a Jew who finally found a way to be Jewish, away from dogma, away from restrictions, and a way to look at the world through a healing and hopefully insightful lens. First, I love being a MOShnik, and I'm very excited that Reb Mark is creating a Mosh space to study Mussar, hopefully in the future. Ta-da! Rabbi. You like Reb Mark or Rabbi Mark? Reb Mark. You said it was cooler. I love being a member of a Jewish renewal community, and I thank you for your vision, Reb Zalman, Reb Mark, and Renee, and all the original members that brought Mosh to life. Thank you. Yes, he's my technical man here. Now, having finally arrived, and let's say I'm at the door that's ready to be entered, but I realized I had seen the light almost 50 years ago when I met my first spiritual guide at 25. My eyes were open, but I just didn't know how to get to where I wanted to be. Now, with 76 years of life experience, I realized life never really failed me. But when I discovered Mussar, I realized that life continues to simply challenge me and delight me when the time is right. So I guess this is my Mussar time. I'm committed to live a life, a mindful life, live a life with an attitude of gratitude as I travel the road of my spiritual journey, which of course included a personal bat mitzvah at the age of 70. How hard could that be? I discovered Mussar in 2017. Currently, I am simply a student trying to apply the Mussar practice, working on my personal curriculum of 13 character traits, which you will hear the words midot, which is plural, Middah is a specific character trait. So my place that I got mine from, my journey was from a man called Alan Moranis in his books, Everyday Holiness and With a Heart in Mind. So over the years, I've worked with a chavruta, which is a one-on-one study partner, and less in a vad, which is a group study, and Sarah will give you her background, and you'll find that, we're interestingly connected. When I was introduced to Mussar, I was fascinated by a way of living that included a blueprint for living a balanced, mindful, ethical life. The concepts were universal, and in the beginning, on the surface, they were all very understandable. I love that the midot, the soul traits, were simply everyday concepts that we encounter when we live our life. So as I tell people, oh, this is very, very complicated. Enthusiasm, patience, compassion, truth, simplicity, trust, responsibility, gratitude. Every day we encounter one of those midot. What Mussar does is that you now approach it in a more mindful way. So the Mussar encourage us to explore, and the masters teach us to seek a balance as we study each Middah. Each person's balance point is different. Each person's personal curriculum is different. And in fact, it may even be fluid. It may change. It may evolve as you become a more serious student of Mussar. The good news, there are no wrong answers. It's a win-win all the way down the line. However, the depth of the experience comes over years of engagement and varies with each person's commitment to live a mindful, balanced, and ethical life. On the way, you might, if you don't already have it, add a spiritual practice, and then engaging in something called cheshbon hanefesh, accounting of the soul. So every evening, we review the day, we review which middah we were studying, and what action was taken, if any, and how it transformed the way we were thinking about things that day. So here comes my greatest obstacle, where I was futzing around. I don't do everything the same time, the same day. This is a total anathema for me. As a kid, when I had a diary, there were years between entries. Ever have a diet where you had to write down everything you ate? I was a total bomb at that as well. So I kind of said, well, maybe I can skip that part. And as I was talking to Reb Sandi, she said, actually, no, you can't skip that part. It really makes a difference in how you approach it. But I have forgiven myself, which is important. And when I feel I'm doing a half-assed job, I simply go back to the essence of the practice, which we'll discuss later. Mussar helps us become a mensch, an extraordinary, ordinary person. And now I'd like to share the screen with Reb Sarah, who will tell you how she got here. Reb Sarah, please.
So, hello and welcome, and I'm so glad to see all my friends here. It's so exciting. Wow. So my connection to Mussar started many years ago at an Eilat Chaim event where Alan Marinis was there. And he, of course, told us about the book, Everyday Holiness. And we studied it with him for a long time. And it was with him that I learned what anava is, what humility is. And in his words, anava is taking up just the right amount of space, no more, no less. Are you being certain that you are allowing time for others to speak? I was so taken with him that I studied with him for a number of years. Then years passed, and I got an email from a local synagogue that Mindy Shapiro, who was here last week, was teaching something called Mussar by Rabbi Ira Stone. Is somebody trying to reach me in chat?
No, no, I just put the name of the book by Elana
You're good.
Morinus in there.
Oh, okay. So, and Rabbi Ira Stone's book that we studied was called A Responsible Life, The Spiritual Path of Mussar by Rabbi Ira Stone. And his group is contemporary. I just wrote it down. I can't find it.
Institute for Contemporary Mussar.
Thank you. And so I studied Mussar for 4 years, every single week with Mindy. And we did something called Avad, which I'll talk more about later. And we did something, I'm piggybacking on Mindy for a minute. If you recall, she said that in this model, it's about being in the service of the other. So we had an assignment that said, who is a difficult person in your life? And for me, that was my daughter-in-law. And we did Middah after Middah after Middah until I finally had the courage to call my daughter-in-law and have a conversation with her. If it had not been for my Mussar practice, it would never have happened. So fast forward, Mindy stopped, and then a beloved friend of mine, Linda Krieger, who is deceased, she said she was going to have a Mussar Vad. So a Vad is a group of people who study together and do practice together, which we will talk about. It will unfold. We were blessed to have Linda Krieger for a year before she passed away. And we started, just like Mindy did with a meditation, which we'll do later. We have kept together, the 6 of us. I think it's now 6+ years that our Vad continues. And we just made it a date to meet in my sukkah on October 20th to have our first year's Mussar meeting. And that's how I got into this, and that's how I continue in this. Okay? Shall we do a meditation now? You're muted, Elana. Meditation next?
Nope. What we're gonna do is, we kind of covered it, but what's
Oh,
the
I'm sorry. I jumped the
you
gun.
jumped it. We have one
Yeah,
more
we're
thing to
10
share.
minutes we're 10 minutes behind. That's why I jumped the gun. I'm
Okay.
very sorry. Go
No
ahead.
problem. Okay, so Reb Sarah, as you can see, we come from 2 different schools of thought. I had been only with Alan Moranis. And it turns out that Reb Sarah was both, but recently she was more taken with the philosophy of Ira Stone. And I'm still a Mussar Institute girl. So this is what I came up with. You'll forgive me if I'm reading, because I usually teach off the cuff. But this is my first Mussar, and I wanted my thoughts to make sense. So please don't see it as a reading, but from my heart, because I spent a lot of time on it, because I wanted to do it right. And that feeling of, oh, I can skip this, I can skip that. Mussar sort of got me right in my third eye, and I heard Reb Sarah's voice yet again going, no, you can't do that. So please forgive me. So as you heard from Reb Sarah's introduction, Mussar is born from multiple models. My main resource is Alan Moranis, and his master, Rabbi Israel Salanter, among others, with some insight from Moranis' student, Greg Marcus. The good news is that there is always a gift when you study Mussar. It doesn't really matter how you encounter it or what you do with it. It's taught through Torah, Talmud references, Hasidic tales, a bit of Kabbalah, and quoting the works of the leading rabbis, mostly of the 18th, 19th, and early 20th century, with a lot of action as I read more and more from the 11th century. So this is old stuff, but as you can see by the title of the book that Reb Sarah was studying, it's contemporary. It's as new and fresh for our world as it was for somebody who was dealing with it in the 18th century. World War II just about whacked it, is basically. And what has happened is that they were mostly teaching this in the yeshivas of Lithuania. World War II came around and wiped out all the yeshivas, all the students, and the study of Mussar. But in the 21st century, it began to, and in America, and mostly, let us say, in the free world, people began to be interested in Mussar. It was sort of picked out of the ashes. And now it's becoming so relevant that I made a commitment that I signed up for classes. I figured they'd been working out the kinks since the 18th century. So let me hop on that bandwagon. So the two schools of thought, mine is choose the right amount of space, not too much, not too little. And the other hook I had was, it's not about being a nobody, humility. Our definition in Judaism is very different than the Christian or the American definition, because we think of, well, it's meek, and I'm so unimportant, and let me just not be seen. But in Judaism, it's a guide. It's a strong guide as we travel our individual journeys. And what I loved was, it's not about being a nobody, but it's also about not being more of a somebody than you ought to be. And I said, finally, I've got something to really understand. So it's very contemporary, and I'm going to hand it off to Reb Sarah, and she's going to give you a little bit of where Rabbi Stone took it, but you'll find at the end that it weaves together beautifully. So Reb Sarah, why don't you share what you learned with Rabbi Stone?
So thank you, Elana. I'm not going to go into the history because Mindy Shapiro did a wonderful job last week, of giving us the history of Ira Stone's, how Ira Stone got to be where he is. So when I study Anava, humility, with Ira Stone, he says, Middah, Anava, humility. Always listen carefully, because I'm going to ask questions. Always seek to learn wisdom from every person, to recognize your failings and correct them. In doing so, you will learn to stop thinking about your virtues, and you will take your mind off your fellow's faults. Now, that's a lot to unpack. So when we say we do Mussar practice in the service of the other. What this says is I can learn from the other and put my ego or Yetzer Hara outside my door. That I have to reflect on my failings and stop being judgmental about the other. So from this, even the person, the fellow whose faults I'm finding, I can learn from that person. And I can even ask myself, how can I be in this person's service? Louder? Oh, no, Mark was just waving his hand. How can I be in this person's service? Might there be some way in which I could support him or her? Now, how would I know that? I would have to have the courage to contact that person and ask that person if there was some way that I could be of service. And most people in the situation that I've encountered has said yes. And this is what I want from you. And it's typically about relationships. I'd like you to help me in Avad work on my relationship with my sister. We haven't spoken in a very long time. So I'm using the word Vad. A group of us meet, and the 6 of us call ourselves a Vad. And somebody says, we do a meditation, which we'll do shortly. And after the meditation and the practice, I'll ask, does somebody need to work? And that person will say yes. And then we'll spend time with that person and see if we can be of service to that person. And we're going to practice that very soon. So I will turn it back or do the meditation.
We really wanted this to be unmuted. Thank you. We
Sorry?
wanted this to be participatory. That everybody who came today, which we thank you very much, would become involved in it and be an active participant. So we're going to have a meditation that Reb Sarah is going to lead. And just an FYI, if you've got a chance, if you've got some paper next to you, we're going to do a little bit of journaling. So from the meditation, we'll have a call to journal and you'll see what came up for you. So if you've got some paper and pencil ready, that would be great. And just give me a thumbs up when everybody's ready and Reb Sarah will start the meditation.
Okay, thank you, Mindy Shapiro.
All right. I'm going to mute myself.
Now I'm just going to have to be patient with me 1 minute. I have to make it bigger. Come on, get bigger. Oh, come on, you could do it.
While we're waiting for Reb Sarah.
Did you ever try to make something bigger on your phone? Takes you 2 seconds.
While we're waiting for Reb Sarah, please know that we're going into breakthrough rooms. So
Rabbi Mark, your sound is very muted.
Yeah.
I have no idea why.
Okay, I'm going to read it from here.
Now it's gone.
Because I'm not talking.
Okay, relax, everybody.
Okay, forget it.
Take a
Got it.
deep, slow breath. Place your body in a position that is comfortable. And take a deep, slow breath. And now take another. Feel the air as it moves in and out of your body. Continue to focus on your breath as it moves in and out. Focus purely on your breath. And as you do, become aware that every person on the planet is breathing as you are. Air moving in and moving out. All of our breathing is a constant. We are all breathing, and there is always enough air for every breath taken. Each person's breath does not disturb another's. Allow yourself to connect to those around you. All the others are breathing as you are. From this place, begin to review the last 24 to 48 hours and let the others who have passed through your life come into your mind. As each one appears, let yourself be curious about what you can learn from them. If an actual learning occurs, that's fine. If all you find is a feeling of curiosity, that's fine too. Practice noticing others who cross your path and practice feeling curious about what you can learn from them. Nothing more is required. That's all. Easy, delicious curiosity with no pressure for answers. Just stay curious about this other person. Stay in that place for a moment. And when you are ready, bring your attention back to this room.
Go ahead.
Anyway, it was good to think about this. This is not something that I think about very much. And when I thought about a person, for me, it was my friend who recently died. And we had been good friends for a long time, but he was a very humble person. And I learned he was a role model in humility for me. So
Thank you. Shamati? Judy?
Judy? Oh, okay.
And then Devorah.
Okay. I thought about my dad as a humble person. He did a lot for a lot of people and really was pretty quiet about all of that. But I did want to make the distinction, I made this in the breakthrough room, that being humble does not mean you're easy.
It does not.
So just wanted to, I think that's probably true. You can be humble and still have be whatever.
You can be humble and still be feisty.
Yeah, or something like that. And then I thought a little bit about what the difference between being an extrovert, and being like, you can be like a person who likes to connect with other people and yet still hold the place, just take up your space. I think I do take up a little too much space sometimes, but we're all works in progress.
Exactly. I made the commentary that I wish some of this wisdom had dropped on my head when I was about 32, because it was, I was a giant puppy taking up lots of space and didn't know how to control. Esther. Oh, wait, no, Devorah, and then Esther, will you go next? Thank you. Devorah, my sweet, share with us, please.
Well, who would you be now, Elana, if that had happened at 32? I mean,
And I don't even drink coffee. I mean, I was serious.
anyway, I just want to say that I first heard of Mussar, I think, I don't know, it was maybe January of 2021 when we were in COVID. And I took a class in my Florida community. And the very first Middah was Anava. And the definition of no more than my space, no less than my place. I was just sold on it completely, because it just taught me something about how to be aware. It gave me something attached to be aware of exactly that, how much space and how much place and all that. So I just wanted to share that. I did share it in my room too.
Thank you. And you know what?
But I did work with it for a lot longer than that one night. I like for a year and a half. So
Another committed Mussar aficionado. Esther, please.
Well, I have a dear friend who I think is probably the most humble person that I know. I worked with her for about 36 years. And I was constantly surprised at all of the things that she did and never ever spoke about or sought recognition for. And she's truly an amazing person. Just very grounded. It was just a matter of course for her. She never thought about it. She just did it. She did what needed to be done. And just an amazing person that way. And so I think she's probably the most humble person that I know. And I was really grateful to have her for a friend for so many years and hopefully for many more.
Wonderful. Shamati.
Amati.
Yes, Gail, please.
Yeah, so I at first was thinking about my mom, but then it really became all about my dad, because just thinking of him, he was like 6'4.5", and he was a very tall presence. He and I don't know if he had sensitivity of his height to the space, the idea of space and knowing his place, but he when we had his funeral service, it was the people that still came to his service, and this was 20 years ago now, his work colleagues, and so they talked about him and his humility actually at work, and how the things he had accomplished that we didn't even know. He didn't bring it home and even to us share, oh, this is what I did. So really thinking about him, and he was an avid photographer, and so I just really recognize my dad for his humility, and I think he might have helped to be a little less humble.
Okay, we're trying to stay on a timeline. If there's anybody else who would like to share, we've got room for one more short share, and then we're going to speak a little bit about what the practice is about. And then because we're due to be done at 8:45, and we want to be respectful of your time. So if there's anybody else who had an extraordinary experience or an ordinary extraordinary experience, if it's something you'd like to share.
Go ahead,
Otherwise-
Barb.
Okay, Barb, you got elected.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I guess I'm thinking about a leader in one of the Jewish communities I go to, and just how much they sort of weave their leadership through their lives now, and just engage others in the community and just try and make all these connections and get needs met. And just thinking about what it would be like at work if we were conscious of how much space we take up and had that same kind of community. Thanks.
Thank you, Barb. All right, we're going to move on. And finally, we're going to answer the question, well, what is the practice? What does that mean? You know, we've given definitions and, you know, what we could hang a hook on, but how do you do it? So we're going to start very briefly. We're not going to talk a long time on this. So Sarah, if you would please tell us what Ira Stone said about what are the steps? How do you do that? How do you integrate Mussar in a practical step-by-step into your daily life? Please.
So we wake up in the morning, we say our prayers, whatever they are, and then we say, what is my Middah? What will serve me today? Will it be anava? Will it be savlanut, patience? Will it be any one of the 13 or 18 midot that we have? And then we go through our day. And at the end of the day, we do something called cheshbon hanefesh. And literally it means the review of your soul. But practically it means you look at the day that you had and you say, did I practice anava today? Did I really take up just the right amount of space? Or did I slip and take up a little bit too much space in this conversation? Or I didn't do it at all? And then you say, if I didn't do it at all, what might have helped me remember? So tomorrow, I can do that. Do I have to set a reminder for every half hour, every 2 hours, every 3 hours, half a day, 3 times a day? Or will I trust myself to remember? And then we go to sleep and we wake up and start the day all over again. We do the same Middah in our Mussar, in my group, in my Vav, for a week. Because we meet once a week. Now, I could have one Middah, somebody else have another, everybody else has their own. Sometimes the two of us have the same. We get together. We start with a meditation. And then we ask, is there somebody who wants to work today?
Okay. Right.
And then somebody says, yes, I would like to work. And then that person is asked to tell us who this other is for that person. And we say, we don't want to hear the story. This is my daughter-in-law. I hurt her feelings. I want to make amends. Thank you. Then we let her or him talk about what actually occurred. And then we asked the question, how can you be of service to this person, to this other? Sometimes we know how I could be of service, sometimes I don't. If I don't know, the question is, will you have the courage to ask that person? How
Right,
you
in the interest of time, I think we're gonna stop here, if that's okay.
hold
with
on,
you.
please let me finish my sentence. Thank you.
Okay, of course, of course.
How can I be of service to this person? When that's complete, the question is to the rest of us, is there something in this that arose in you? If so, write about it in your Heshbon HaNefesh tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Reb Sarah. Sorry to have interrupted you. In the interest of time, I'm going to just say the first part is exactly what Alan Morenas suggested. It's that step by step. The morning starts with exactly what Reb Sarah said, and it ends with Heshbon HaNefesh. I worked in a chevruta, which is a one-on-one, as opposed to the VAD, which Reb Sarah has been so significantly connected with for so many years. And we work on it by a week. We have the same Middah. That's how we do it. And we both have trouble journaling. And so we're supportive of each other. So it becomes a little bit like a once a week breakthrough room with someone who you trust. So that's really a step by step. It's very, very simple. And it's easy if you're mindful about it and you've made a commitment to let me try this, that you will find that it is a wonderful addition to your life, is the best I can say about it. So that is Alan Morenas, that's Ira Stone. So what we'd like to do now is, what's your takeaway from this evening? What did you learn from the group? And most important, would you be interested in being part of a Mussar group if it started, if we could put a group together through Mosh? And if you are interested, if you would be so kind as to get in touch with Reb Mark, and then we can decide whether we do it as a group or a one-on-one with Chevruta. But we're interested to know what you think, whether this has been, did we pique your interest, your curiosity? Is it something that you would like to add to your life? So that's basically who we are, what we did. And I would like for us to close with a chant from Reb Mark. And he said, you know what? I really have a wonderful version of Psalm 27, which is what we read every night or every day during the month of Yule. And I said, who needs to chant? All I want to hear is Reb Mark. So Reb Mark, if you would be so kind as to take it away.
Well, I want to be humble enough to say, I hope that's not true. Achat sha'alti mi'et Adonai ota avakesh. One thing I ask of you, my holy friend, to sit in your presence all the days of my life. Shifti b'veit Adonai. Kol yemei chayai shifti b'veit Adonai. Kol yemei chayai. Sing the ayais with me. Ay 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 alay la 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 la. Ay 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 ya ay 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 ay.
As always, your musical soul is such a beautiful addition to our practice and to our connection with Moshe and with our Judaism.
And Mark, do you
Thank
have
you.
any announcements for us?
Well, next week you must be wondering, where are we going from here? We have 2 weeks left. Next week, Sandra Wartzel, dear friend and teacher of a colleague of mine and Reb Sandi, is going to be teaching on the Middah of patience, savlanut. But also she's adding something to that, which is acceptance, which is, I know, something that I have difficulty doing at some times. So she is indeed a wonderful artist, and she might even bringing some art making into the experience. I'm not sure exactly what she has planned, but I hope that you join us next week. And again, if you're interested, and this wouldn't start until after the High Holy Days, after all the Chagim of the Mussar work between MOShniks. And Esther, you are now an official MOShnik because you've come more than once.
Yay!
So we would welcome you to any of these gatherings. It's wonderful to have you. So that's all I have to say right now. Reb Sandi, you want to take us out?
Yes, I want to thank you all so much for joining us and giving us this opportunity to share what we have learned to teach you. And we hope that you will come back next week with a lot of curiosity. Until then, Laila Tov.
Thank you, Reb Sandi. Let's give it up for Elana and Reb Sandi.
Laila
Laila
Tov.
Tov. Good night, everyone.
Good night. Thank you so much for coming.